campus of Northwestern University. Name is Stephen Bruner. I'm from Thompson Hospitality, joint venture director for Thompson, along with Compass Group as part of our joint venture partnership. We're celebrating Black History Month, and we're going to do a little dish for you today. But before we jump into our dish, I did want to talk a little bit about Thompson. For those of you that don't know, Thompson Hospitality is one of the largest minority-owned food service management companies in the U.S. The brothers and sisters, Warren is our president and CEO, along with Benita, his sister, and Fred. And I'm so blessed to work for a minority company, especially as we're celebrating our heritage here with Black History Month. So we're going to get into our recipe. And food is one of those things that is a magnet. We break bread. We're able to put aside our differences, no matter our culture, color, creed, race, and hopefully as we get through the day, we'll kind of talk a little bit about, how we're celebrating Black History Month. And the recipe that we're doing today is a play on Nashville Hot. So we're doing a Nashville Hot Cauliflower. Somebody said, where is the chicken? We'll talk a little bit about that later, but we're using cauliflower for that. Cauliflower is one of those wonderful vegetables that's super nutritious, full of fiber and vitamins. Along with that, we have our ingredients for our Nashville hot sauce, which is going to be cayenne pepper, garlic, paprika, the Tabasco sauce, and then we have some melted margarine over here. The cauliflower is going to get treated just like any other protein. We're going to put together a little bit of a dredge for that. So we have our flour that's called for it. I have a mixture of sorghum flour, almond flour, and rice flour. Since I'm dealing with kind of a gluten intolerance, I prefer to use that. And again, this is one of those recipes where you can do it gluten-free and dairy-free, as we're doing today. So we have salt, baking powder, and also cornstarch. And then, of course, the recipe calls for soy milk. I'm using almond milk. And again, like I said, we're doing dairy-free, gluten-free. The only, I guess, drawback with this, and it's not necessarily a drawback, but we're deep fat frying our cauliflower today. So it's something that you could bake as well, oven bake, oven fry. It's a concept that's out there used with a lot of different proteins. But anyway, we'll go ahead and get into our recipe today. And there's a little bit of history behind the whole Nashville Hot. It started in the, I guess, during the Depression. It would be in the 1930s. A gentleman by the name of Prince. He was somewhat of a ladies' man, so he would go out and about and do his thing. He was had his restaurants going, and felt he was doing the right thing. But as time went on, he ended up coming back home, and the lady that he was seeing at the time actually made for him some fried chicken in the morning. And of course, you imagine getting up in the morning, smelling those wonderful herbs and spices in the air as that chicken's cooking away. To his disbelief, she had spiced it up quite a bit. So she came up with a concoction of cayenne pepper, lots of cayenne pepper, the Tabasco, the butter, and the margarine. And unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, fortunately for us, every piece of that chicken was enjoyed by Prince, and that's kind of how the Nashville Hot got started. So, it's something that's out there. People are enjoying it today. So we'll go ahead and jump into the cauliflower version of it. So cauliflower is one of those, again, cruciferous vegetables. It's in the family with cabbage, broccoli, collard greens, bok choy, kohlrabi. I typically will cut along the stem inside of the cauliflower, just making kind of a V cut, and that will separate the cauliflower from the stem. And then we're going to go ahead and section this up. Cauliflower is one of those vegetables that we don't necessarily have to use our knife on it. We can essentially break these pieces apart. and separate them as such. And then we'll use our knife to kind of break down some of the larger pieces here. Since we're deep fat frying them, we want to make sure that our pieces are somewhat uniform in size. We don't want them too large so that they soak up a lot of oil. And we don't want them too small where, you know, they cook too quick and we don't really have any cauliflower inside. So we'll break those down into pretty much equal sized portions, and we'll go ahead and drop those in with our cauliflower. We already prepped a little bit up here, so we'll go ahead and plug those in our little dish here and have those prepped ahead. If you're one of those people that don't have time to prep your vegetables, you know, you can go to any of your local supermarkets and they will have for you cauliflower, broccoli florets or whatever that are already pre-portioned for you. So it takes a lot of the labor out of it. Myself personally, I think food's one of those things, when we talk about bringing people together, you know, you can get your family involved if you have friends and neighbors that want to come over and help with it. That's part of what makes cooking a wonderful thing, is we get to share. So don't be scared to ask your neighbor to help you out with cutting up your cauliflower florets. So we're going to go ahead and get our breading mixture together. What we have for that is our flour mixture, again, the sorghum, the rice flour, and the almond flour, baking powder, cornstarch, and salt. I don't know if everybody knows about the difference between baking powder and baking soda, but essentially baking powder only needs a liquid added to it, whereas if you had baking soda, we would have to add an acid as well as the liquid to that to have that leavening action created in there. So baking powder is one of those things that has been around for centuries, since 1859. You know, tried and true in the African American kitchen. You know, essential ingredient for cornbread and anything that needs to have that leavening to it. So we're going to go ahead and combine our ingredients together. So we have a cup of the meal that we're going to put together, and we'll go ahead and add that in. And then we have a half a cup of the cornstarch, so we'll go ahead and get that. We'll add that in. And then I think we have a teaspoon and a tablespoon salt and baking soda. So we'll get a teaspoon of that. And that's actually 1 full tablespoon. So I apologize for that, 1 full tablespoon. And we have 2 teaspoons of salt. So we'll go ahead and add that in. And then once we get that, we'll just get a wire whisk. Just incorporate those ingredients together really quick there, so that they're blended together. And there we have it. We have our dredging mixture. So we're going to go ahead and grab our cauliflower. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to just separate a cup of this off for the side. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this and put this into another little dish here. Grab me a nice cup full of that, and I'll reserve that for later for our batter. So we're going to use some of this to dredge our cauliflower in, and then also we're going to use some to use for our batter. So we'll go ahead and add our cauliflower. And cauliflower has those little nuggets inside of it, so you know, as we start to sift this around in the flour, you know, hopefully all that sorghum and almond meal and rice flour will get captured into those nice little nestles inside. All these little like veins or crevice, you know, makes it wonderful for the cauliflower to just live its life. So that'll be super enjoyable. As we start to move through that, we get them tossed around, coated. Now we're going to go ahead and prepare our batter that our cauliflower are going to be tossed in before we deep fry fat them. So we have reserved that little bit of flour. I have my almond milk here that I'm going to add in as a liquid. So we have about a cup that we're going to add to our dry mixture. We'll give that a nice little whisk to bring that together. There, we got it nice and whipped together. And you can see those little bubbles inside of the batter there. That's that baking powder that is actually activating. So we'll get a kind of a double rise out of it, one right now, and then one once it hits the deep fat fry oil that we're going to put it into. So we're pretty much ready to go. I did turn on my fryer a little bit earlier. We're going to check the temperature of the oil, see where we're at. We're looking for between 325 to 350. One of the things we want to make sure the oil is hot enough so that our cauliflower doesn't get soggy, but we don't want it too hot where we're actually going to burn before the actual cauliflower gets cooked. So we're at about 330 degrees or so. So we're going to go ahead and grab our cauliflower out of our dry ingredients. And one of the things with wet and dry, if you're ever doing breading, you want to have one hand that's designated for wet, one that's designated for dry. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this for my dry hand. Go ahead and drop my cauliflower into our batter. And we'll get those in there. I'd probably say it's a lot easier just to go ahead and take that and dump it on in, but then we'd have a batter that's too thick. And if that does happen to you, one of the things that can remedy it is a little bit of water. One of the things I like to use with deep fat frying or anything that I'm going to be battering or breading would be a little bit of club soda. Now they have all these different flavored club sodas out there. So something citrusy would go very well with this. If your batter's too thick, you add that carbonated soda in there, and it's going to again help to make a nice crispy and light batter for whatever you're deep fat frying. All right, so we're going to get these coated, and then they're ready to take a bath in our oil. And then while these are frying, we're going to make our Nashville hot sauce. So we'll get a couple of these in. It's always nice to, I guess, do a little tester here. See where we're at with our oil. Got a nice sizzle going on. She's sitting at the bottom, and hopefully as she starts to cook, that cauliflower will rise to the top, indicating to me that she is ready to come out. And I don't know why I'm calling the cauliflower she, but it may be something that, you know, I have so much admiration for my my mother and my grandmother. I can remember, you know, Sunday after we came home from church, we'd always head over to Grandma Rose's house, and she'd have a roast on for us, along with some mashed potatoes and green beans, or sometimes it would be mac and cheese or spaghetti salad with some collards. And the one thing that I truly loved was the pound cake. And sometimes I didn't even get a chance to eat the meal. I would just eat that pound cake. It was so rich and buttery. So the way to my heart, not a pound of butter, but pound cake, it's good to go. So that's why I keep calling her she's, even though they may go by another pronoun. All right. And one of the things you want to make sure, especially when you're dealing with hot oil, is not to throw the items in. I'm very kind of getting them close to the level of the oil and allowing them to kind of free fall into that hot fat that's there, because the worst thing that you would ever want to have happen to you is to have some of that hot oil come up and burn you. It's never something that I would wish upon anyone. So be careful with that. You know, handle these like your little babies or your little girl. As I said, as I called her she. Nashville hot sauce prepared. So 4 ingredients that are going inside of here. We got our Tabasco. We got our melted butter or margarine. We'll go ahead and add that in. About 2 ounces of that. And then we have 2 ounces of our Tabasco sauce, which is going to be roughly 4 tablespoons or a quarter cup. So that's 1. And I think if I was counting that, that was about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 20. That's 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 16, 17, 18, 19. You're talking about the counting that I did. I did go graduate from elementary school as well as high school and college. That causes 1 more. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Gives us our last tablespoon. There we go. 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, the good hot stuff. 2 teaspoons of the paprika. And then a teaspoon of the garlic powder. Give that a quick little whisk. And I don't know if you can see that, but there's your Nashville Hot. And you know, Nashville Hot typically has that nice, what I'm going to call crimson hue to it. And of course, with the melted margarine inside of there, you know, that's going to sop up nicely on whatever we have there. So I'm going to go ahead and get our cauliflower moving around here. And we're just about there. Right. So we're about at 5 to 6 minutes. These cauliflower have been in here. They're nice and golden brown. So we're going to go ahead and start to scoop them on out of the oil onto our drain pan here. You get any type of roasting rack or baking rack, icing rack that you have, and just set a pan underneath it. You don't want the cauliflower containing the cinnamon oil, so give it an opportunity to drain off as we're removing from the pan. I can tell you what, if we had smell-o-vision here, I don't know how good these smell. They're wonderful, like I mentioned, that nutty aroma smells fantastic. And then I got this Nashville sauce that heat is coming up out of there. So we got these drained off, pretty much good shape. We're going to go ahead and just add those into our prepared sauce. Light little toss. One got away on me. So that's what we're looking like there. And those nice, delicious cauliflower that have been tossed in the Nashville Hot. So to accompany this particular hot dish, as everyone knows, pickle, bread and butter. I got a little bit of parsley, and we're going to plate some of these up. So pickle, we'll just grab one of those pickles there. We're going to just slice it along the bias. Some nice little strips of pickle. We'll add those to our plate, along with a little sprig of parsley. All right, so go ahead and plate these up. You can see that wonderful sauce just kind of just glistening. Smells so good. They say I should taste the food that I actually cook. Take a little bit of that chopped parsley, sprinkle a little bit of it across the top there. Add a few more of these pickle spears. And there you have it. Cauliflower Nashville Hot has the wonderful flavors of that chicken dish, but made with cauliflower. And I said we're going to get back to chicken. So, chicken's one of those things that everyone thinks, Black History Month, gotta have chicken, gotta have chicken. And yeah, chicken is a wonderful food. If I think back to, again, my grandma's and my mom's house, chicken was one of those things from our ancestry that you didn't have every single day. If you were to kill that chicken, that was your source of eggs that were gone. So it was a celebratory food versus something that we have every day. So when we have that fried chicken, make it an occasion. Nothing wrong with having greens, mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes, mac and cheese every day if you wanted to, but the fried chicken is reserved again for, kind of a celebratory celebration. So that's our Nashville Hot. I appreciate you joining us and look forward to seeing you again.